Hello, everybody. This is The Home in the World by Rabindranath Tagore. Chapter 3, Sandip's Story, Part 3. I was aware that it's unsafe to suddenly awake a sleepwalker, but I'm so impetuous by nature, a halting gait doesn't suit me. I knew I was overbold that day. I knew that the first shock of such ideas is apt to be the most intolerable, but with women, it's always audacity that wins. Just as we were getting on nicely, who should walk in but Nico's old tutor, Chandranath Babu. The world would have been not half a bad place to live in but for these schoolmasters, who make one want to quit in disgust. The Nikhil type wants to keep the world always a school. This incarnation of a school turned up that afternoon at the psychological moment. We all remained schoolboys in some corner of our hearts, and even I, felt somewhat pulled up. And as for the poor bee, she at once took her place solemnly, like the topmost girl of the class on the front bench. All of a sudden she seemed to remember that she had to face her examination. Some people are so like eternal pointsmen lying in wait by the line to shunt one's train of thought from one rail to another. Chandranath Babu had no sooner come in than he cast about for some excuse to retire, mumbling, "I beg your pardon, But he couldn't finish. B went up to him and made a profound obeisance, saying, "Pray don't leave us, sir. Will you not take a seat?" She looked like a drowning person clutching at him for support. Ah, the coward. But possibly I was mistaken. It's quite likely there was a touch of womanly wile in it. She wanted, perhaps, to raise her value in my eyes. She might have been pointedly saying to me, "Please don't imagine for a moment that I'm entirely overcome by you. My respect for Chandranath Babu is even greater." Well, indulge in your respect by all means. Schoolmasters thrive on it. But not being one of them, I've no use for that empty compliment. Chandranath Babu began to talk about Swadeshi. I thought I'd let him go on with his monologue. There's nothing like letting an old man talk himself out. It makes him feel that he's winding up the world, forgetting all the while how far away the real world is from his wagging tongue. But even my worst enemy would not accuse me of patience. And when Chandranath Babu went on to say, "If we expect to gather fruit where we have sown no seed, then I had to interrupt him. "Who wants fruit?" I cried. "We go by the author of the Gita, who says that we are concerned only with the doing, not with the fruit of our deeds." "What is it, then, that you do want?" asked Chandranath Babu. "Thorns," I exclaimed, "which cost nothing to plant." "Thorns do not obstruct others only," he replied. "They have a way of hurting one's own feet." "That's all right for a copybook," I retorted, "but the real thing is that we have this burning at heart. Now we have only to cultivate thorns for others' souls. Afterwards, when they hurt us, we shall find leisure to repent, but why be frightened even of that? When at last we have to die, it will be time enough to get cold. While we're on fire, let us seethe and boil." Chandranath Babu smiled. "Seethe by all means," he said, "but do not mistake it for work or heroism. Nations which have got on in the world have done so by action, not by ebullition. Those who have always lain in dread of work, when with a start they awake to their sorry plight, they look to shortcuts and scamping for their deliverance." I was girding up my loins to deliver a crushing reply when Nikhil came back. Chandranath Babu rose, and looking towards B, said, "Let me go now, my little mother. I've some work to attend to." As he left, I showed Nikhil the book in my hand. "I was telling Queen Bee about this book," I said. 99% of people have to be deluded with lies, but it is easier to delude this perpetual pupil of the schoolmaster with the truth. He's best cheated openly. So in playing with him, the simplest course was to lay my cards on the table. Nikhil read the title of the cover, but said nothing. "These writers," I continued, "are busy with their brooms, sweeping away the dust of epithets with which men have covered up this world of ours. So as I was saying, I wish you'd read it." "I have read it," said Nikhil. "Well, what do you say? It's very well for those who really care to think, but poison for those who shirk thought." "What do you mean?" "Those who preach equal rights of property should not be thieves, for if they are, they would be preaching lies. When passion is in the ascendant, this kind of book is not rightly understood." "Passion?" replied, is the street lamp which guides us. To call it untrue is as hopeless as to expect to see better by plucking out our natural eyes. Nico was visibly growing excited. I accept the truth of passion, he said, only when I recognize the truth of restraint. By pressing what we want to see right into our eyes, we only injure them. We do not see. So does the violence of passion, which would leave no space between the mind and its object, defeat its purpose. It is simply your intellectual foppery, I replied, which makes you indulge in moral delicacy. Ignoring the savage side of truth, this merely helps you to mystify things, and so you fail to do your work with any degree of strength. The intrusion of strength, said Nikhil impatiently, where strength is out of place, does not help you in your work. Why are we arguing these things? Vain arguments only brush off the fresh bloom of truth. I wanted B to join in the discussion, but she had not said a word up to now. Could I have given her too rude a shock, leaving her assailed with doubts and wanting to learn her lesson afresh from the schoolmaster? Still, a thorough shaking up is essential. One must begin by realizing that things supposed to be unshakable can be shaken. I'm glad I had this talk with you, I said to Nico, for I was on the point of lending this book to Queen Bee to read. What harm, said Nico. If I could read the book, why not Bimala too? All I want to say is that in Europe people look at everything from the viewpoint of science. But man's neither mere physiology, nor biology, nor psychology, nor even sociology. For God's sakes, don't forget that. Man is infinitely more than the natural science of himself. You laugh at me, calling me the schoolmaster's pupil, but that's what you are, not I. You want to find the truth of man from your science teachers, and not from your own inner being. But why all this excitement, I mocked? Because I see you're bent on insulting man and making him petty. Where on earth do you see all that? In the air, in my outraged feelings. You would go on wounding the great, the unselfish, the beautiful in man. What mad idea is this of yours? Nico suddenly stood up. I tell you plainly, Sandip, he said, man may be wounded unto death, but he will not die. This is the reason why I'm ready to suffer all, knowing all, with eyes open. With these words, he hurriedly left the room. He was staring blankly at his retreating figure, when the sound of a book, falling from the table, made me turn to find B following him with quick, nervous steps, making a detour to avoid passing too near me. A curious creature, that Nikhil. He feels the danger threatening his home, and yet why does he not turn me out? I know he's waiting for Bimal to give him a cue, but if Bimal tells him that their mating has been a misfit, he will bow his head and admit that it may have been a blunder. He's not the strength of mind to understand that to acknowledge a mistake is the greatest of all mistakes. He's a typical example of how ideas make for weakness. I've not seen another like him, so whimsical a product of nature. He would hardly do as a character in a novel or drama, to say nothing of real life. And B? I'm afraid her dream life's over from today. She has at length understood the nature of the current which is bearing her along. Now she must either advance or retreat, open-eyed. The chances are she will now advance a step and then retreat a step, but that doesn't disturb me. When one is on fire, this rushing to and fro makes the blaze all the fiercer. The fright she has got will only fan her passion. Perhaps I'd better not say much to her, but simply select some modern books for her to read. Let her gradually come to the conviction that to acknowledge and respect passion as the supreme reality is to be modern, not to be ashamed of it, not to glorify restraint. If she finds shelter in such words as modern, she'll find strength. Be that as it may, I must see this out to the end of the fifth act. I cannot, unfortunately, boast of being merely a spectator, seated in the royal box, applauding now and again. There's a wrench at my heart, a pang in every nerve. When I've put out the light and am in my bed, little touches, little glances, little words flit about and fill the darkness. When I get up in the morning, I thrill with lively anticipations. My blood seems to course through me to the strains of music. There was a double photo frame on the table with B's photograph by the side of Nico's. I'd taken out hers. Yesterday I showed B the empty side and said, theft becomes necessary only because of miserliness, so its sin must be divided between the miser and the thief. Do you not think so? It was a good one, observed B simply, with a little smile. What's to be done, said I. A portrait cannot be better than a portrait. I must be contented with it, such as it is. B took up a book and began to turn over the pages. If you're annoyed, I went on, I must make a shift to fill up the vacancy. Today I have filled it up. The photograph of mine was taken in my early youth. My face was then fresher, and so was my mind. Then I still cherish some illusions about this world and the next. Faith deceives men, but it has one great merit. It imparts a radiance to the features. My portrait now reposes next to Nico's, for are not the two of us old friends?